We got wind of a contract of $195 million awarded by the Ministry of Transport to Shawfac FEM and HLSI. When we got wind of this, we immediately wrote a petition to the National Assembly. The matter was addressed. We held 7 public hearings. I think that should be about the lengthiest, spanning over a period of 2 months. And the facts which we presented before the House were very weighty. And the matter was ruled upon, and the Federal Executive Council also reversed the contract, having found out or discovered the lapses we so identified. However, it is saddening to note that through the back door, individuals hell-bent on milking our nation dry, hell-bent on frustrating the security efforts of Mr. President, went through the back door to still smuggle this contract in and also get budgetary approvals and payments. We are here to call on the National Assembly to act decisively and to call on Mr. President also to act very decisively. I'll refresh your memories with the fact that recently Nigeria was thrown into needless litigations over the contract between the federal government through the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and Process and Industrial Development, PNID, the Irish firm that is now holding us by the jugular for the sum of $9.8 billion. If we do not stand to correct such negative precedents, they will continue, and Nigerians will be the ones to suffer for this. So I welcome you to this World Press Conference by the Empowerment for Unemployed Youth Initiative and several other civil society groups that are our partners. This is an urgent call on the National Assembly to revisit the probe into the $195 million HLSI contract and the ceding, which resulted in the ceding of security and control of our coastal waterways to a questionable private firm. Gentlemen of the press, it might be recalled that in November 2017, the Empowerment for Unemployed Youth Initiative, in partnership with other civil society groups, raised alarm over a shoddy contract for the security and control of our coastal waterways valued at $195 million. HLSI security systems at the time. Our cry was premised on the fact that the said contract had grave national security implications owing to the ceding of the control of our waterways to a foreign firm, which is a gross violation of our status as a sovereign nation. It should be emphasized that all over the world, no nation leaves the affairs of our national security solely and totally in the control and command of a private firm, and Nigeria should not be an exception in this case. The clandestine contract contravenes the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, Chapter 4, Part 3, Section 217, subsection 1 and 2, which states that there shall be an armed forces for the Federation as may be established by an act of the National Assembly. The Federation shall, subject to an act of the National Assembly made in that behalf, equip and maintain the armed forces as may be considered adequate and effective for the purpose of defending Nigeria on land, sea, and air. C. Suppressing insurrection and acting in aid of civil authorities to restore order when called upon to do so by the President and none other, but subject to such conditions as may be prescribed by an act of the National Assembly. And D. Performing such order functions as may be prescribed by an act of the National Assembly. The act also negates the provision of Part 1, Section 4, and particularly subsection A of the Armed Forces Act, which provides that the Navy shall in particular be further charged with 1. Enforcing and assisting in coordinating the enforcement of all customs laws, including anti-bunkering, fishery, and immigration laws at sea. Enforcing and assisting in coordinating the enforcement of national and international maritime laws ascribed or acceded to by Nigeria. Making of charts and coordinating of all national hydrographic surveys, and promoting, coordinating, and enforcing safety regulations in the territorial waters and exclusive economic zone of Nigeria. This law thus vested solely the task of protecting our waterways on the Nigerian Navy. The Navy was given expanded military roles, especially in the oil and gas sector of the Nigerian maritime economy. Let it be emphasized that from what we have gleaned from the Constitution and the relevant sections of the Armed Forces Act, it does not give any private firm, much less a foreign firm, the powers to be in control of our national security at sea for any reason at all. In our previous petition to the National Assembly, we made the following clear points. 1. That no sovereign nation surrenders or cedes control of its waterways to foreign entities for the inherent dangers that are therein. 2. That the contract and ceding of our waterways to the exclusive control of a foreign firm is an avenue to divert Nigeria's oil for selfish interest and personal gains. Of course, when the armed forces have been pocketed by private firms, controlled by individuals with vested interests, you and I can only decipher what will be the aftermath. They have held our economy by the jugular and they will bleed it to death. We must say a big no to that. The ceding of our waterways and the critical national assets therein to foreign firms will definitely undermine the constitutional role of the Nigerian armed forces as prescribed by law, and will expose our nation to glaring security risks and ridicule in the Committee of Nations. Following our petition to the House Committee to the National Assembly, and which was referred by the House of Representatives to the House Committee on Public Petitions, all concerned parties were invited to 7 sessions of public hearings which spanned a period of 2 months. Some of those invited to these public hearings include the Minister of Transport, Right Honorable Rotimi Chibuike Amechi, who was present physically by himself in most of the public hearings, the Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Mr. Dakuku Peterside, who was also present in most of these sessions of the public hearings and also made their positions clear. The Chief of the Naval Staff, who was also present throughout the sessions, and in most circumstances was represented by top officials or officers of the Nigerian Navy. The Minister of Defense, who also sent representatives from the Ministry of Defense. The Empowerment for Unemployed Youth Initiative and our civil society partners, among several other government bodies and entities that were invited to all of these public hearing sessions. The records bear it clear that at the end of the exhaustive public hearings, the House ruled on the matter, and the Federal Executive Council had to cancel the said contract. The cancellation of the said contract was as a result of the obvious flaws and intentions to defraud the nation, which caught the eagle-eyed attention of President Muhammadu Buhari and prompted him to act fast in the overall national interests. To our consternation and dismay, however, our findings indicate that enemies of our Commonwealth who seek to cast aspersions on the good government of President Buhari just to achieve their selfish ends smuggled the said contract into the 2018 and 2019 national budgets to finance the contract, which had already been reversed by the President. The copy of the contract that was backdated again and signed as though it preceded the time before the public hearings. All the flaws which were identified are still replete in this document that you find here between HLSI and the Ministry of Transport on behalf of the federal government. While the Nigerian Navy, that normally and constitutionally should be in charge of the security of our territorial waters, has no place of significance in this document. Neither does the Minister of Defense or the Chief of the Defense Staff. Let us emphasize that the desperation to go ahead with this contract, despite the grave implications of economic sabotage and national security compromises, raised very strong questions. Some of these questions will be seen, as it should not be lost on us that the contract was entered into by the Federal Ministry of Transportation and HLSI Security Systems, whereas the contract is a security contract for which the Ministry of Defense should have appropriately handled. But they were relegated to the background and nowhere in all of this, all because of the subterfuge to rob Nigeria, cripple our economy, and pocket the armed forces, an act which we must condemn totally. Furthermore, the firm which was awarded the contract has no sound antecedents of handling contracts of this magnitude. Nowhere in the world, let the records be checked for HLSI, nowhere in the world have they handled this contract of such magnitude to secure the territorial waters of any sovereign nation while putting the armed forces of that country under their command and control. We must therefore make all efforts to avoid all the pitfalls and challenges Nigeria encountered with the P&ID contract that resulted in so much economic damage and reputation damage to our country, Nigeria. That the Minister of Transportation, Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, is caught in a web of a conflict of interests, considering the fact that the company that was awarded the said contract has links with him, judging from the fact that this was the company he used principally throughout his tenure as executive governor of Rivers State. And he brought the same company all by himself to handle contracts for the federal government, got clearance from the BPP and from other places to go ahead with all of this. And when we raised our points of observation on constitutional grounds, and the National Assembly reversed it, and the President also reversed this contract, he still went ahead through the back door to ensure that the contract sums were smuggled into the national budget, and this firm is being paid for the contract as we speak here today. We want to therefore use this medium to cry out again and for an umpteenth time to the National Assembly to come to the rescue of Nigeria and Nigerians. This massive fraud and attempt to surreptitiously hijack our national security must not be allowed to stand. In the same vein, we herein use this medium to call on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, to rise and decisively deal with all those culpable of flouting the status quo pertaining the reversal of the said contract. We urge the National Assembly, which has shown itself to be the bastion of hope, to immediately call the Minister of Transportation to order, and also to put the interests and security of Nigeria first, in order not to jeopardize or expose our nation to further security and economic dangers. We want to thank you very much for creating time to be with us. This petition is signed by 9 civil society groups, by myself, Comrade Adodo of the Empowerment for Unemployed Youth Initiative, Comrade Okpanachi Jacob of the Civil Society Advocacy Group for Accountability and Probity, Hajia Zainab Sule. We have the initial contract documents. We have all of the meetings held by the FEC. We have the House proceedings on this matter. And as a responsive and responsible media, the National Assembly is there for you to glean your facts from. The Federal Executive Council is also there to double-check these facts. The Ministry of Transportation, the Minister of Transport himself, did not have strong points as to why this contract should not be thrown to the trash can and why Nigeria's money should not be wasted. The Chief of the Naval Staff and the Nigerian Navy as a whole made it clear during the public hearings that giving less than half the sum quoted in this contract in this contract, they will be able to procure all the equipment and propel their manpower to the right places throughout Nigeria's territorial waters to ensure a total reversal of any ugly trend which we experience on our nation's territorial waters. The minds of Nigerians, for it should remain fresh in our memory, that in a bid to denigrate the Nigerian Navy, and by extension, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Minister of Transport, publicly, before the House Committee on Public Petitions, before the entire media of the world, before civil society groups, and every other body and person, entity gathered in these public hearings, denigrated the Nigerian Navy, called them incompetent, and also stated that the Nigerian Navy was useless. That is a threat already to national security. We want to call on the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces that if there are any bad eggs in his cabinet, they should be weeded out. We remain in support for a greater, robust, and advancing Nigeria. But as we move forward as partners with government, it is our duty to expose every loophole. It is our duty to finger any bad egg, isolate them, and let them be meted the appropriate punitive measures. Thank you very much for your time and the contract. The House of Representatives ruled on this matter. There are other papers to that effect from the Federal House of Representatives. We have not seen, neither are we aware of any other document or communication to the contrary. The federal government also in the Federal Executive Council reversed the contract. And it was in the media. We did not hear at any point that Mr. President or the Federal Executive Council re-awarded this contract. So anything done on this contract or through this contract is a one-man show, budget padding, and also an attempt to compromise national security. But beyond that, Nigeria has been defrauded of billions of naira that need not be so. Our prayers, as we call on Mr. President and the National Assembly to look into this matter again, is that all the payments made to the contractor should be retrieved and refunded to the National Treasury. Our prayer also is that every individual and entity, including company or government official, culpable in ensuring that this sneaky document found its way to lay her fingers on our national treasury, should be meted the appropriate punitive measures. They should be punished. They should be sanctioned. We want to see people going to jail because of this. Thank you very much.